Hey, this is Zach from W Your Freelancing. Today I have 3 quick tips for how you can get more clients and earn more money as a freelancer. So the first one is probably one you've heard before. Don't get caught in the roller coaster of client work. Make a commitment to yourself to working on your business every single day. It doesn't matter if you don't even have your first client yet and you're totally new, or if you've been freelancing for several years. The fact is, most freelancers tell themselves, I don't have time to work on my business. And so they don't. But the freelancers who do really well and charge premium rates are working on their business. The hardest thing for somebody who knows that they should be working on their business, but they don't know what to do, is knowing where to spend that working on the business time. So if that's you, perhaps the initial time you spend working on the business is finding out where you need to spend the time working on your business. Taking your end goal, reverse engineering it into shorter term goals and asking yourself, what are the skills I need to build in order to move myself towards this goal or to become the type of person who can reach this goal? But obviously that's quite fluffy. So if I were to boil this into something more actionable, I would say this. If you are a new freelancer, maybe you've worked with, 5 clients or less, or you've been working freelance for under a year, you're still side hustling. It's hard to define new, but if you consider yourself a new freelancer, I would say that the best skills to be doing right now for working on your business are building your sales skills, which we'll talk about in a second, and prospecting consistently to move yourself away from platforms like Upwork or other marketplaces. If you're more experienced freelancer, like let's say you've been working freelance for 3, 5, 10 years, but you still aren't really making as much as you want, not really loving your clients, I would say still sales skills if you can't relate to what I call selling properly, which I'll talk about in a second. That would be really good to build, but also getting yourself more into the problem solver educator mode is going to be what working on your business might look like. We'll talk more about all this in a second. But to summarize this first tip, it is committing to spending time working on your business every day. For me, what works best is spending that time first thing in the morning before I have seen any notifications of any kind. No email, no Facebook, no Slack, no nothing. And if you work in a really plugged in kind of way where you know that your clients are relying on you being on Slack, I would challenge you to ask yourself if it really is important that you can't guard even 30 minutes before getting connected, because I bet you could. And if you really can't, then fine. But for most of us, it's very doable to find some distraction-free time. And if you can spend that time working on moving your business forward, that's going to be the thing that makes the difference of you not looking back in 10 years and realizing you've just been kind of treading water freelancing. Tip number 2 is learning how to sell without being scummy. I was initially very resistant to learning sales because I thought it was manipulative or scummy, but at the end of the day, the way that I would describe good sales is basically being able to understand the painful problems of your prospective clients and knowing how to position your services as the solution to that problem. That's all sales is. When you think of some scummy salesman who's trying to get you to buy something, like that to me isn't good sales. And frankly, it's not even effective because nobody likes being sold to. But we all welcome when someone wants to ask us about our problems and truly understand the problems and make a good recommendation for a solution. So if when you talk with a potential client, you're spending a lot of time talking about all the things that you're going to do, but you're not really spending much time trying to understand their problems and trying to show how your services are a solution to those problems, I think you've got some room to improve your sales skills. We have a free course called Charge What You're Worth that will help you do just that. If you want to sign up for that, it's at dyf.link/sales course. If you're here, maybe you've already seen it. If so, it might be worth going back through. I also have a worksheet I created called the Client Fundamental Needs Worksheet, which I'll drop a link for. If you've already been through Charge What You're Worth, or even if you haven't, this worksheet's a nice way to kind of keep yourself tapped into the pulse of what the client is really struggling with and what their problems and fundamental needs are. So download that and fill it out whenever you're talking with a prospective client. It'll help you remember to see the forest through the trees and not zoom in too much on your specific craft. Third tip is going to be kind of a choose your own adventure based on your experience level. So if you are a newbie, this third tip to get more clients and raise your rates is simply that you should be prospecting every day. The goal for any freelancer is to have a backlog of clients waiting to work with them. If you're always needing the next client, you're going to be a lot more desperate whenever you finish a job. And when you're desperate, you're going to be willing to sell your services for less. So by filling up that pipeline and ensuring that whenever you finish a project, you've got 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever more waiting on you to start, you're going to give yourself a lot of power as a negotiator. And as a newbie, you're probably really tied right now to Upwork or wherever people are using these days. And by getting leads coming in that are not tied to some platform and not having you surrounded by your price-oriented competition all the time, you're going to build a much stronger pipeline of high-quality leads eventually. So we have, I think I mentioned earlier, maybe not, we have a video that's about prospecting for newbie freelancers, how to get early clients. So go watch that if you haven't yet. Pick one that sounds good and spend time on that every day. I also have another video, I think, that I just made, maybe. I'd have to check my notes. I've been making a lot of videos today, but there's some other video I made that is about prospecting every day. So go watch that one if you like. If you are a more experienced freelancer, this third tip should instead be practicing being an educator. The way that Brennan was able to get to a really top tier rate and really own his lead flow was by going beyond relying on word of mouth or relying on agency partnerships or relying on marketplaces and really get into the educator role. And I think as freelancers, even once we get comfortable with sales and get comfortable with writing good proposals and converting clients on the phone, and we have all these fundamentals in place, it's still very much next level to get into that role of being an actual educator and doing things like blogging, sending a newsletter, podcasting. All of these things feel very much like the I don't have the time category of things. But they're also the things that allow you to really raise your rates, because you basically, just like how when you don't have clients in the pipeline, you're willing to drop your prices. Similarly, if you have 50 clients wanting to work with you and you only have enough time to accommodate 2 or 3, you can charge basically whatever you want, and you can raise your rates so much that they push away 95% of your clients, and it doesn't matter because you can get all the work you want thanks to this gigantic lead flow. And so by doing things like podcasting, blogging, videos, newsletters, all of the things that are typically seen more with product-oriented businesses rather than freelancing, you're going to give yourself access to this huge pool who already trusts you and sees you as an expert. Which is the key to top tier rates. But if you're busy with client work, the big objection is that you don't have the time to do it, or that it just feels uncomfortable and risky. So this tip is to practice. Find little ways that feel easy, quick, and low risk where you can practice. So a few ideas I have for this are writing case studies about problems you've solved for past clients, and you can feature these on your website. These are a great conversion tool anyway, because if somebody comes to your website and they find a past client of yours who's having a similar problem as what they're experiencing that you solved, obviously they're going to see you as a good solution for their problem. So working on writing case studies, and you don't have to go too crazy with it to start. You could just literally download that client fundamental needs worksheet, get in touch with what the kind of core problem was, and your case study can just be, the client was having this problem. They weren't converting their leads to customers, and this was costing them a lot of money. I did blah, 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 and the solution is blank. So basically problem, action, solution. You could also share interesting tidbits with past clients. So let's say you read some article about some, I don't know, for me, it might be some conversion strategy, and it reminded kind of reminded you kind of the project you did with them. You might send them an email saying, hey, here's this cool article. My top 3 takeaways were blank, and I think you dig it. Here's a link. This is advantageous because it keeps you at the top of their mind for future projects and stuff. And it also helps you get into that role of synthesizing valuable information and making things easy to follow. Another idea is kind of like the case study one, writing blog posts for your own website about problems clients have experienced and solutions to them, or multiple solutions to them. If you're really low confidence about this stuff, you don't even have to publish it. But getting in the practice of like looking at problems and creating solutions with content is the fundamental thing that is going to allow you to do higher scaled marketing versus what most people do when they want to scale their marketing, which is just launch some Facebook ads, pay a few $1,000s, get one client and say, oh, this doesn't work. So those are the tips. I recommend picking whichever one resonates with you the most and implementing it immediately, and then circling back to add the others. If the sales one was something that you thought was going to be important for you, that free course that we have is at dyf.link/sales course. It's a 90-day course, and we walk you through different worksheets and exercises to help get you into the position of selling your clients on the value that you provide and the problems that you solve, rather than overly focusing on the services that you offer. The nice thing about this approach is that it gets you into more of a partnership role rather than a like commoditized button pusher role where they're looking at you as, say, a web developer, web designer. You're instead looked at as the like solver of their problems, which gets you more creative flexibility, higher rates, and more clients because you'll convert your calls at a much higher rate. So dyf.link/sales course for that. Otherwise, download that worksheet, go through these exercises, and hopefully they'll make a huge difference in your business. See you around.